So we are going to continue with partial fraction decomposition and do one more. The same as before, the first thing we want to do is we want to factor the denominator. So this factors into 2x plus 5 over x minus 2 times x plus 1. Then what we want to do is we want to write it out. So we want to take each of our linear factors and split that up. So we want x minus 2 on the bottom here, and since this is a linear factor, it's just x to the first power, we can put an a above that, plus we have b over x plus 1. Then what we need to do is multiply by the least common denominator. So here we're going to multiply by the least common denominator. And this time our least common denominator is everything in the bottom, which is x minus 2 times x plus 1. So if I go ahead and multiply by my least common denominator, if I take this whole fraction right here and multiply by this x minus 2 times x plus 1, that's going to cancel that out. And all I'm going to be left with is 2x plus 5. Then if I take this fraction here, the a over x minus 2, and multiply it by this, my x minus 2's will cancel, and I'm going to be left with a times x plus 1. So here I have a times x plus 1. And then in my second, or my last fraction, I have b over x plus 1. If I multiply that by this least common denominator, my x plus 1's will cancel, and I'll be left with b times x minus 2. So I have plus b times x minus 2. My next step then is to distribute on the right-hand side. So I have ax plus a plus bx minus 2b. Then I want to group together anything with an x and anything that's a constant. So I'm going to group together my x's. So ax plus bx, that's these here and here. And then I'm going to group together my constants, anything without an x. So that's my a minus 2b. Next, I'm going to factor out my x in that first set of parentheses. So if I take out the x, I'm left with a plus b. And my constant has nothing, so I'm going to leave that as a minus 2b. If I remember what's on that left-hand side, I'm going to bring that down. I still have my 2x plus 5 over here on the left. And then what I'm looking to do is set up a system of equations. In order to do that, I'm looking at my coefficient in front of x. That's this. This a plus b is the coefficient of x. And this right here is my constant. So my coefficient of x, that a plus b, has to be 2, just like it's the coefficient here. And my constant over here, which is 5, has to be the same constant over here on the right if these are going to be equal, which is also 5. So if we move this up, I know that 2 has to equal a plus b, the coefficient of x, and 5 has to equal a minus 2b, which is my coefficient, or I'm sorry, which is my constant. And then I want to go and I want to solve this system. If I solve this system, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first equation here and I'm going to multiply it by 2, and I can eliminate my b's. So I have 4 equal to 2a plus 2b. The bottom equation stays the same. 5 equals a minus 2b. So I get 9 equal to 3a. My b's will cancel. And I know by dividing by 3, a has to equal 3. Well, if a is 3, and I come back to this equation right here, that 2 is equal to a plus b, if a is 3, I want b to be negative 1. So I know b equals negative 1. Then I can write down my answer. So my answer, I'm going to go back to those fractions that I started with. And I'm going to plug in right here. I'm going to plug what I got for a in above x minus 2, and I'm going to plug what I got for b right above that x plus 1. So my answer will look like this. 3 over x minus 2 plus negative 1 over x plus 1. I would like you to do the try this next. So go ahead and pause it, try that, and then you can check your answer when you're done. If you did the try this correctly, the first thing I'd like you to look at is the way that we factored this. This would have been negative 24 over x minus 4 times x plus 4. It's a difference of squares. And then if you did your answer correctly, your answer should be negative 3 over x minus 4 plus 3 over x plus 4. If you need help with anything, please let me know.